Hi, folks. Kunal Arora here. I teach TV production and film and media at Quince Orchard High School, and I recently did an interview with David Stern, who teaches similar classes at Imagination Stage. He's also a filmmaker in his own right. But I wanted to interview him specifically about Trika Film Coalition, which is a club that exists for all teenagers in Montgomery County who are interested in filmmaking and all of the other things that are associated with it. You should definitely join because it's free. And then during this pandemic, meetings will be held online. And here is the interview. Sorry about recording it in gallery view. I thought we were doing speaker view. My bad. And also, sorry for the flop sweat. I don't know. Sorry. Ugh. I'll try to do better next time. Mr. David Stern, how are you, sir?
I'm very well. Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining me on this Zoom call.
Happy to do it.
The reason I wanted to have you is that you are a pro, is what I will say. According to some research that I've done, you have been working in the film industry for over 30 years, worked for numerous production companies as a writer, director, producer, editor, making dozens of short films, documentaries, promotional videos. The last time I saw you in person, you had just, I think, finished recording The Forgiving, and that is now done. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
You have a few other films as well. And you teach at Imagination Stage, where you're also the director of digital media, and you're in charge of something called the Trika Film Coalition. And that is of particular interest to me because I am a high school film and TV teacher, and I want to share as much as I can to my kids. Like, Trika is awesome. You should do Trika. What is Trika?
Yeah, it's unique. Trika is really a community of young filmmakers, kids from all over the area, Montgomery County, DC, Virginia. Uh, they there are kids who are interested in filmmaking or some aspect of filmmaking, and they're really all over the place. And they kind of came together to create this community of filmmakers, and they meet once a month. And in the meeting, we typically have a guest speaker, a professional from the industry, either a director of photography or a director or editor or somebody from the industry. And we have a conversation with that person. And then the other parts of the meeting, they have a chance to network. Um, and that's probably one of the more important aspects of Trika because these kids are all trying to make their own films and they use each other as resources to either get on sets or to get people to work on their crew. And then the third part of the meetings that they have is generally a script reading. So kids who have written a script, a short film script, they will have a reading at the meeting, and they'll be able to get feedback on their script before they go ahead and launch into production, which is critical if you're writing and directing, especially. But it's always great to hear your script being read. So that's what Trike is. It's really a community of young filmmakers coming together to make movies.
That sounds really cool. So it sounds like, that's a place to be if, you're interested in acting or writing or directing or editing. I know that I went to one of my students' productions where there was a bunch of Trika volunteers and, there was lights, there was people doing audio, there was props, all kinds of different things. So,
Right. It's a
um,
world of, filmmaking like everything else, I guess, but certainly filmmaking is a world of specialties, and everybody, is unique in their talent. And this idea of collaboration is something that we work hard to, we talk a lot about at Imagination Stage and various film classes, but they recognize that when you're making a movie, you need other people to make it, to help you make it. And what they used to do, I mean, a kid wanted to make a film, they used to, call their neighbor, get their friends, and
mom and
these
dad.
mom and dad and whoever
Uh-huh.
and these people, they were just not interested in filmmaking, but they were doing them a favor. But the fact is that it's much better if you can get people who are actually interested in filmmaking, who actually understand some of the aspects of the craft, who can help you out. It just raises the level of the production that much further up. So you're working with, I don't want to say they're working with professionals because they're working with their peers,
Mhm.
but their peers are interested in filmmaking and not interested in biology or something else. They're really focused on filmmaking, and that's an important part of being able to make a film with people who actually have the same focus as you.
Absolutely, and hopefully, they're interested in that narrative too, and have some investment in it. Um, do you mostly get students in Trika who are interested in film production, or do you also get students, who like making music and sort of other talents that can kind of bring to the table? Is that
Yeah, Trika is full of a variety. It's a real eclectic group. There are a lot of kids there who want to be directors. They want to be the next, you know, Francis Coppola or Spielberg or what have you. And then there are people there who kids who are interested in music, and they want to do sound, or they want to be cinematographers or actors. We have actors who are in the meetings as well. And then there are some people who are just not interested in necessarily making it a career, but they really want to be part of that community,
because it's
and
just
they're really
fun?
interested in film. Yeah, it is fun. And as filmmaking is not all fun. It's a
Yeah,
mostly hard work, really, but it is fun. It's really fun to work with people who have the same interests as you as well, and that's important. So that yeah,
right.
so it's a real eclectic group. It's a real group of a lot of different variety.
So this year, are you still able to do Trika virtually, or how's it going to work?
Well, we don't do much during the summer ever because it's not we're not in session for school or anything. But we kick off with our open house, which is our first meeting, and it start this year. It is September 26th. It's a Saturday. All of our meetings are on Saturday evenings at 6:30. It's once a month. So this open house is our first meeting on September 26th. And in the age of this pandemic, things are definitely different. Um, the great thing about filmmaking is it requires collaboration. And the terrible thing about filmmaking right now is it requires collaboration.
Yeah,
You can't make a film alone, and nobody really wants to be on a set with a bunch of other people in close quarters handling equipment and back and forth. So
right.
it's really troublesome from that point of view. So no one's really making much in terms of film. But before you can make a movie, there's lots of stuff to do, and most of that
Absolutely.
stuff is you do alone. You have to write a script, you do all your pre-production. So a lot of kids are starting to go through that process. They're thinking of ideas, they're starting to write their script, they're starting to do pre-production, and they know that at some point they're going to be able to get people back together to make the film. So they want to be ready for that. So this year, we're going to have meetings, but they're going to be remote meetings, and they'll be scaled back a little bit. They won't be quite as robust as they used to be in the past. We'll probably have guest speakers like we did. We may have script readings. We might have some other things that we may do, but the key of Trika, which won't be lost, which is to connect these young filmmakers so they know who they are and who they can call on to get help. If you're making a movie and you're young and you need a crew, you want to be able to know where to go to get that and be able to meet people who can help you out. And of course, when you're a young filmmaker and you want to make a film, you also want to be on someone else's set to see how it all works. And even though no one's making a movie right now, it's important to find out who is going to be making a movie, who is in pre-production right now, who's going to be out there at some point looking for crew. And then those connections are made at the meetings, and that'll happen this year until they allow us to get back into a room safely. And uh, hopefully that won't be too long. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of what's happening in Hollywood right now too, right? The screenwriters are off still doing and making stuff, but
Yeah,
production's kind of at a halt right now. Still some post and editing and things like that. I imagine we'll see probably a lot more animated projects coming up because that can happen sort of remotely.
that's
It'll
right.
be interesting to see.
At Imagination Stage, we have classes. Of course, we have two classes that we can actually do right now. One is our
And that's
fundamentals
separate from
class.
Trika, right?
That's separate from Trika,
Okay.
but the fundamentals class is just teaching the filmmaking craft, and I think you do some similar type of stuff. You can do that, because they're not collaborating necessarily on a set. And then the other thing is animation, as you mentioned. We have an animation class. So we have someone who can do it remotely. The kids have their software on their computer, and that is something you can do by yourself. So, we may see the future of animation might, accelerate from this point forward. We'll see.
Yeah, maybe who knows? That tends to happen, right? Where sometimes something big happens in the world, and we get like a sort of artistic revival as a result, right? Like everyone's kind of down in the dumps right now, and
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
also a big you know socially there's a lot going on now too besides just the pandemic, so it'll be interesting to see kind of what comes of that.
Yeah.
So what classes can students take through imagination stage? I know you mentioned animation, fundamentals. What sorts of other things can they get involved with?
Well, normally we have a pretty robust curriculum, so students begin with the fundamentals class where they learn, and it sounds basic, fundamentals sounds basic, and we do go through the basics of the filmmaking craft. We talk about the obvious, really simple stuff, um, but then we get into very advanced material as well, so that we cover the entire process of filmmaking from dramatic structure to pre-production, cinematography, and all the aspects of production itself, and some post-production work. We cover all the elements of that. Our narrative classes, which are really our production classes, we can't do right now because we just can't have people together.
Right.
So we're not actually making movies, but usually after our fundamentals class, kids will go into the narrative classes, which are production classes, and they'll make a movie as a group, as a team. Um, so we're not doing that. And then we also usually have a conservatory film class for kids who have gone through the basics and they've made a film, they've shown their dedication, and they can go into our conservatory program, which focuses on directing mainly. It's direct. Well, it's three aspects actually. It's directing, uh, it is working with actors and production schedules and call sheets and all the details and advanced stuff, and when it comes to directing, assistant directing, that kind of thing. And then we also, in conservatory, we also go through lighting. We go through a lot of advanced lighting techniques. And then the third thing is sound design, which is a huge aspect of
Absolutely.
filmmaking, and we talk about that. And then after they're done with their conservatory program, the kids will usually go into our independent film study program, where they make their own film using our equipment. They can check all of our gear out. They can, and they work with a mentor through the entire process to create uh, what is very often their college portfolio. So a lot of these kids will go off to film school and they'll submit their independent film study film to their respective colleges. So we can't do that either because of everything. But so right now we're just doing our fundamentals and we're doing our animation. And animation right now is our 2D animation class. But it's at some point, I believe, in the winter spring semester, we're going to be having our we're opening up a 3D animation class as well. And that's not more advanced. It sounds like 2D and then 3D, but actually they're two separate things, completely different. And that'll be,
Animation's still difficult regardless of
I can't do it. I'll
which
tell you
path
that.
I can't either. I'm astounded by it, but
I know
yeah.
you have to have patience that I cannot fathom, but
Hmm.
somehow these people do it. But we have a great teacher, and actually he's up in New York. But the way we operate now, it's totally fine.
Yep.
Yep,
Well, you're in outer space, so you can do anything from anywhere, don't you
that's
know?
right.
Yeah.
Here I am in outer space,
So
and the weather is great.
it sounds like if students like are interested in going to film school, um, that Trika is free club. You can meet other teenagers who are also interested in this. Um, but then if you really are very invested in it, are these classes? I know right now they're happening remotely, but those are on Saturdays as well,
Yeah,
typically?
not all of them. The fundamentals class is on Saturday, and we also have a film history and theory class, and that is also on Saturday. And then when our animation class is on, I believe, Wednesdays. But you can go to the website and you can see what we have and when it's happening. I will say our program as well as Trika, this is kind of geared towards kids who are really serious about filmmaking. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean they're going to have a career in filmmaking, but they're serious about learning, what is this really all about and how does it actually work in reality? Not like basket weaving for Mother's Day kind of thing. This is, what is it really about? And we don't cut corners. I try to make sure the kids don't cut any corners, even though they can, because when you're making a 5-minute movie, it's really easy to cut corners.
Hmm.
But we try to get kids to make a 5-minute movie like it was a 2-hour movie. We try to get them to make a movie that doesn't cost anything really because it's a student film, and pretend it was $100 million movie, and
Yeah.
go through all of the steps so that when they get that chance at some point in their future where there is a lot of money being on the line, or it is a long movie and there's a lot of expectations, um, that they're prepared. And that's what we're doing. And so our focus is getting these kids, kind of ready to go to college and go to film school and be serious filmmakers. And when you go to film school in college, one of the key aspects of that is to work on other people's films, and that is a huge education. It's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of kids, they don't realize that until they get to college. So we really try to emphasize that kids should be on the set of other people's films, be a part of it. You don't have to be the director of photography or something. You can just be a production assistant. If maybe you can't be there on every day of production, but be there for 2 hours on a Saturday. Help, just look at somebody's set, see how it works, see what works and what doesn't work, and what you might do differently. But it's really, really important for kids to work together, to help each other out, be on each other's sets, and that is a major aspect of learning how to make movies, because that is actually making movies essentially. Even though it may not be your script and you're not the director, you're still involved in the production, and it's
Absolutely.
really important.
That sort of hands-on activity, I think, you end up teaching far more doing it that way, because it's one thing to lecture, about, like, here's rule of thirds and here's how it works, or when you're editing, think about it from the audience's perspective. But then actually going out and shooting your short film and editing it and putting it together, showing it to people, seeing kind of what works and what doesn't, like, that is an education in and of itself.
Right.
um,
Yeah.
that's kind of what I miss during distance learning, sort of the most. But we're still able to kind of do what we can, on our own. And absolutely, um, that's very, very cool. I have another question for you, which is, knowing that you have been a filmmaker for quite a while, and I have too. What do you wish you had known? Like, if you could talk to David Stern, high school David Stern, what kinds of advice do you have?
Wow, what a great question. Congratulations. I don't think I've ever been asked that before. You get a star for
Yes.
sure. Um,
Gold star.
um, I think that um, when I was younger, I was probably like every other young guy. I was, I felt like I could take the world on my shoulders, and I could do anything. I was fearless, and you know, a- and I think that is great to have. All kids have that attitude. They can do anything, and um, but I think that I would have told myself what I tell a lot of my students is make a 2-minute movie. Make it without sound. Just do something very small and do a bunch of them. Do, instead of doing a 35-minute, 45-minute movie that you wrote, do a 2-minute movie, do a 5-minute movie. Even that's too long. Do something really short, but do a bunch of them, because that is really how you really learn, is the doing. You mentioned that a minute ago. Hands on, get your hands dirty, get a camera, get out there, start shooting some stuff. If you write this fantastic movie, it is the love of your life. It is this beautiful thing, and it's, you poured your heart and soul into it, and it's 45 pages long. You know, that's great. Put it on the shelf. Don't try to make that until you're really ready to make it. When you've done, 10 2-minute movies, then you can start thinking about doing a longer one after that. because what you're going to end up doing is making your beautiful script, but you'll never make it as good as what's in your mind because you're just not ready. And it's hard for a kid to be patient. I know that I was not patient, you know, um, but it pays off to be a little bit patient. Don't wait to make a movie, but make a movie right now, but make it 2 minutes long, 3, 4 minutes long. You know, I
Try
know a lot of
things, try it
students.
all.
Yeah, I know a lot of students who go out there and they have these fantastic scripts. They're 30 pages, they're 45 pages, you know, and they think it's fantastic. And sometimes some of them are. They're really well written, but they're just not equipped to make that film the way that they see it. And it's disappointing,
Or it becomes daunting to try to just even finish the thing, right?
Yeah. And then you
So
hate filmmaking because man, that was too hard.
right, and then it turns into some sort of kind of like weird mental feedback loop, and it's like it's okay, like it'll be all right, like just kind of trying different things too. So
Yeah.
I like that philosophy a lot. Um, so is there any reason a student who's interested in this stuff shouldn't join Trika or shouldn't kind of get involved with this stuff?
Shouldn't get involved.
Yeah.
Um, I can't think of one. I mean,
Ooh.
if you're, I mean, if you want, if you're interested in filmmaking, the thing I always get, and maybe you get the same thing, is I get because there are filmmakers out there, who are big name filmmakers and they've done amazing films and you see them in theaters and you hear them talk and they say, well, I didn't go to college, I didn't know anything about filmmaking, and these are not the majority of filmmakers. There are a handful of people that are like that. For the most part, it takes tremendous amount of work learning the craft, and it takes doing a lot of stuff, and the people we don't hear about are the people who actually make a living at doing it day in and day out, who are the majority of the people out there making movies. So I would say that, if you're young and you want to make movies for a living when you're old, when you get older as an adult, the best thing you can do is everyone says this, is to make movies, go out there and make them, but not haphazardly. I don't think it's a good idea just to grab a camera and run out to the woods with your friends and shoot a movie. As if it's your first movie, sure, go ahead and do that. But if you make 10 movies like that, I don't think you're learning that much. I think you're learning more if you kind of learn the craft and try to practice the craft. You'll get better and better at it. But knowing kind of what composition is, knowing what lenses do, knowing, how pre-production works, and all the aspects of pre-production, understanding call sheets, and all those details. I think you got to learn that stuff and then try it and do it.
Yeah.
You know,
And maybe that's the best way to learn, right? Is that maybe the first one is you grab the camera and you go out to the woods and you shoot something fun or whatever. But then once you watch it, you're like, oh, well, maybe I should have done this during the day, or, once the sun went down, it was just a lot more difficult, or
yeah, I mean, making a
the
mistake once
audio.
is great. Make your mistake, but don't repeat it. Don't repeat the mistake. Learn why it's a mistake, and then do it better next time. You know,
Exactly. And I
go out
think,
there and make a film, and then you do the same, mistakes you just made. What's the point of that?
right. And I think that you kind of hit the nail on the head, right? It takes a tremendous amount of work, and we don't always see that, right? We see like the final product and we think like, wow, they wrote that amazing movie. I'm gonna write the perfect thing right now. And if it's not perfect, maybe you feel bad, and it's like, well, you didn't see all the work that went into it. And
Yeah.
sometimes these things take years and years and years, and knowing people and just kind of working on the craft as it goes. So
Do you
um,
find that is? Do you find that with the people you work with, that the one thing is patience? They don't have the patience. They want to kind of dive into the big projects, get it done.
sometimes I've definitely have seen students try to take on like short films that are really big in scope, that um, like the imagination is off the charts, but if the um, knowledge of the craft isn't there also, I kind of feel how you feel, where like maybe then it's kind of setting yourself up. And so at least through my classes, right? So that's if you're kind of on the like private classes on that side, on the public education side, the kids who come into my class, I kind of force them to do those things that you were describing, where like, let's shoot 10 2-minute short films. Like, let's try different genres. Let's try it where this time we aren't going to do any audio. We're not going to do any dialogue. How can you still convey those emotions? Um, I love doing like Foley projects and other things too, just to see like how important that is. Like,
Yeah,
really, like to get into, like, you can do so much with just sound, especially in some of these genre pieces that you don't necessarily need a lot of money to make, like a horror or thriller script, for instance. Usually it's one location, and you can kind of do a lot with very little still too. So I'm
yeah.
all for
That's
that.
the advantage of public school system. You really you can slow the process down because because you have you're giving them a grade.
Right, right.
These are the projects you're going to do. These are the grades you're going to get based on those projects. You got to do it. Kids that come to our classes, it's an option. Like they don't have to make a movie.
They
They
don't have
don't
to come to
have
our
to.
classes.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah,
So they volunteer to do it, and then but I have to. I can't treat it like that. I can't. For me, it's serious. For me, filmmaking is a serious thing. So I treat them like I would treat an adult when it
yep,
comes to the making of a film.
same.
Um, you know, the kids will come, they'll make a movie, and I'll show them in fundamentals class like what a location report is, for example, a location scouting report, and then they'll make their movie in their own house, which has a location. And I
Hmm.
understand that that's a great location. You have their houses available. That's wonderful, but they won't do the location report because it's
Mm.
their own house. They don't have to. And I say, well, do it anyway, because if you don't do it, you won't know how to do it. If you do it, then next time when it really when it matters,
Yeah,
when someone's paying you to do it, excuse me, you'll know how to do it. You've done it
right.
before, you have experience. So it's like when I said that a lot of kids don't have the patience to be meticulous, and the film business
That's all it is.
it's meticulous.
Absolutely.
You don't see shots out of focus
No.
in big movies. You
And,
don't see
and
bad composition. You
and you
see
very rarely see the error in the like location scouting, like, oh, we forgot to clear that water bottle before we
right.
recorded or whatever.
What you see in a big movie is you see bad scripts,
Yeah,
bad acting. That's what you see, but you don't see the technical part of it, the craft. Generally speaking, you don't see bad photography, bad sound,
right.
because money can buy that. Because money can buy people who
Well, and you won't get hired if you
know.
can't do that reliably, right? And if you don't have that network of people.
Yeah.
So
And no one's going
absolutely.
to hire you out of college to be a director. You're going to get hired to be a production assistant if you're lucky. So if you show some initiative and knowledge when you get hired as a production assistant, if you know what a shotgun mic is, or you know what a short lens is, and they see, hey, this kid knows more than everybody else, I can trust him, that'll get you the next job. And now you're going to be a second AC
Right.
instead of a PA.
And that problem solving, and that just like it's not just problem solving, it's also just being proactive and trying to anticipate sort of things that come up before you even get there. And that's something that I think that maybe we're describing the same thing. I think you described it kind of as just like getting like the patience. Part of it's also just like, oh, I have this like incredible idea for this thing. Well, what do you need to enable yourself to even do that? And like getting all of your materials ready and sort of prepping others who don't have as much context to know what they need to succeed once they get there. I haven't directed short films like you have. Um, Even just communicating with actors and what you want to get out of them, it's pretty important for you to know, like, all right, let's do this line as it was written, and then why don't we do one where, okay, as an actor, maybe you have a feel for this, let's try it. But to have a plan going in, so that you're not there forever, but then you're also, doing the piece with fidelity. And so kind of balancing those things.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. That's right. Yeah, preparation and pre-production is the whole thing. I mean, Hitchcock, right? He used to, he said something along the lines of, he thought production was the most boring part of the whole process because he had made the movie in his head long before the camera started to roll. To him, everything was pre-production. That's where you see the movie. That's where you design the movie, and Production is really just executing the plan, you know, and I mean, there's creativity in production as well, but the real creativity is in the design work, which is all
Right.
pre-production, you know.
Absolutely. It's
And
planning, planning,
that's what
planning.
kid yeah, and that in the script, that's what kids could be doing right now.
Yep.
You know, you're home alone, great, start writing. And
There we
when
go.
you're done writing that short film, write another one. Have 10 of them ready to go.
Absolutely. And then at the very least, even if you don't, shoot them, now you have scripts and you have samples, and you can kind of get that out there.
It
Um,
never those scripts are never they don't disappear after you've
yep.
written. You hear the stories all the time of filmmakers who say, "Oh, I wrote this 20 years ago, and finally I got to make this movie." Yeah, Terry Gilliam just made, what was it, Man from La Mancha, Man from
Mhm.
La Mancha, and he's been working on that for like 30 years,
Right. There's so
and he
many
finally
scripts
made
like
it.
that
You
where
know,
screenwriters never even had the chance to pitch it or spec it, so they never did until they could, and to do it the way they wanted to do it.
that's
I
right.
think Chernobyl comes to mind for me. No one was writing about Chernobyl, and that was a great hit on HBO pretty recently too. So
Yeah, no, so that a project that was a long time in the making.
absolutely,
Actually,
and they did it as a short series, so very intentional and just extremely tightly written. And
well, I
uh,
saw the Netflix series or
that one's
HBO
HBO.
HBO
HBO.
series. Yeah, it was amazing.
It was that's like almost perfect. I think I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to be critical of some of these things.
I know.
As teachers, I think we hesitate sometimes to say that something's perfect, but like that's pretty darn good. So,
Yeah, right.
um,
Yeah.
is there anything else that you would recommend to high school students to kind of um, cultivate their craft now? Like do like film contests, or maybe when the world returns to normal, or what else? What else should they do?
Yeah, when the world returns to normal, they can
Oh,
do a lot of
normal.
stuff,
Yeah.
but yeah, when I think, I think writing is probably the thing kids should do. They don't have to be writers, and they don't have to want to be a writer in the future. That's not what writing is really about. Writing helps you develop an ear, helps you to understand dramatic structure and drama and how stories are put together. You know, I tell kids, write, just write a journal, write anything. You don't have to show it to anybody. It's not for anybody to look at. But it's
Mhm.
for you. Write a scene. You don't even have to have doesn't have to have a whole developed story. Just always be writing something, and when you do that, you realize that the way to get better as a writer is to listen, right? So, best writers are ones who can really listen to and be attentive to behavior. So, I used to, and you can do it now. You can go outside and be at a restaurant, and I just like to watch people, try to listen to conversations and see how people talk. And that not everybody, these are characters that they're writing who are different than them.
Right.
So they have to learn what other people, how they speak, the words they use, the cadence in their speech, and what their behaviors are like. Everybody acts differently. Everybody behaves differently. How
Yeah.
does somebody behave? When you start to become very, very acutely aware of other characters, even though maybe they're real, and you start to realize, hey, I'm writing somebody, some character, and you take a little bit of that guy I saw last night at the restaurant, and a little bit of that's the way my uncle speaks, and a little bit of this, and a little bit of that, and you've got a character who actually has a three-dimensional life.
Absolutely. I think that's definitely one of those things that kind of takes time to develop. And one of the things that I'll see a lot from beginning writers is all these characters are the same, or no one seems different. So then,
Right.
kind of learning to do exactly what you said. Where like, well, this guy kind of talks funny in this way, and you know, when this guy talks, it's almost like poetry, versus this one's just like very direct and kind of angry, or
Right.
whatever. You
Yeah.
find those different tones.
Yeah, it's really important to listen, and just be aware and real, because I get the same thing. Kids will write scripts, and every character sounds and acts just like them,
Yep.
because that's who they know.
Right.
Start to get to know other people, how they talk and how they act. And I'll tell you something else kids can do while they're not able to be in production is watch a movie, enjoy the movie. When you're done watching it, go back, find a scene or two or three, and turn the sound off. I always tell the
Yeah.
kids, turn the sound off, watch that scene without sound, and you'll start to see the filmmaking. You'll start to recognize composition. Hit the pause button. Try to determine what kind of lens are these guys using. How did they get that shot? You know, what's the compositional elements that are being used in this shot to make it look this way? How is the lighting, you know, playing a part? Sound tends to, it's so important, sound, that it tends to make us forget that this is a movie. So
Yeah.
if you take the sound out, you know, very often you can see the film in a very different way.
Yep.
And
Yep.
what I have my kids do is to create what we call a schematic of a location. Let's say it's two or three characters talking in a room. You know, draw the room out, plot out where all the characters are and how they move and where the different camera shots are and what angles. Start to see how these other filmmakers are actually uh, making that scene happen. You know, that's something that's part of like you know, that's studying on your own. You
Absolutely.
know, I mean, obviously there's YouTube. You know, I mean, you can go on YouTube and there's a lot of
There's
a lot of good
tons,
stuff
right?
on YouTube.
Yeah.
But you can also, you know, do some of the stuff on your own. You know, watch a movie and you like that movie. I love to watch movies that are bad because the
Yeah, it's an
filmmaking really
education.
stands out.
Yeah, well, what is bothering you so much, and figuring out why it's bothering you, and then how to avoid doing that yourself when
Yeah,
you know, have that opportunity. What you
yeah,
were
it's
describing about the
deconstructing
putting it on
deconstructing the
mute.
scene.
Sometimes I'll do the opposite as well, where like you don't watch the video, but just sort of listen to the audio too. And
Right.
so much happens even like at an unconscious level. Like you have all these feelings based on the audio.
Yeah,
Um, and just kind of like, oh, I never really noticed that like low hum underneath that the whole time. It's like no wonder this in this scene, you know, I'm uncomfortable the whole time because that's there too.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
Very
yeah.
cool.
These are the things that people can do on their own, and
Hmm.
it takes time and dedication, and you know, but that's, you know, if you're interested in it, then you'll do it. You know.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us, and then I will do whatever I can to spread the word about open house on the 26th.
Yeah, if they go to the website, trikafilm.com, TRYKA film.com, all the information is there, you know, when it is. And also, we have on there, anyone who's, you can put notices up if you're interested in, if you're making a movie and you need a crew or a cast or something like that, you can put up notices there. And that's kind of a community board essentially. And there's other material and resources up there as well. So the website would be a great place for kids to go. They can see what's going on.
Cool, man. Thank you for taking the time. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thanks for having me, and good luck with everything you're doing. Keep in touch. Let me know what's happening.
You too, man. You too.
All right.